Welcome everybody to the latest Zoom meeting. This particular meeting promises to be slightly different from the others in that whereas we generally end up talking about racing specifically, on this occasion we have Josh Sealey and Dave Mitchell here. And I think we're all reasonably aware of their interest in taking the industry forward in terms of technology. Certainly, there was some. David's made quite a splash with it, with the idea of getting the videos, recordings out there for trial meetings. Josh has done all kinds of amazing things. Has really made my life so much easier in terms of covering Swindon racing. When with these fantastic photos, all kinds of bits and pieces. We've also just seen Kinsley come in with the pushing of these race cards, the new modern race cards, innovative race cards. So I finished talking. Gentlemen, I gather in the first instance that you have been working on something else. Josh, would you like to crack on?
Yeah, obviously me and Mitch sort of started talking a while back now. I sort of saw when I started the social media sort of push here, I saw he was one of the ones that was pushing for the trials to be recorded. And I thought, well, everything's here. Obviously with our racing starts, but I said we can train my lads up on the track, or I can do it and we can start pushing it out there. So yeah, we started talking through there. We had problems here because the internet is terrible. I'm actually using my phone Wi-Fi now for this because the Wi-Fi here is just awful. So then we realized that we couldn't do anything live, so we'd have to upload, which in turn has now helped out all the other ARC tracks, because all the other ARC tracks are now using the same system we started off with. So trial session gets recorded and then gets automatically uploaded to YouTube to be viewed anytime. But yeah, since then we've kind of been throwing ideas at each other most days. It's, oh, what about this? And then what about that? And then it's then trying to think of how practically we can do it. But it's nice to be able to talk to someone about my weird ideas. And I think Mitch has found the same, that you talk to a normal dog person about it, even anyone at work here, and they'll look at you a bit strange, like, well, why on earth do you want to do that? Why do you want to take photos? Why do you want to go out? Who wants to see that? So it's a big help when, yeah, there's quite a few other people now, obviously with Andrew at Kingsley as well. It's starting to bring people out to show that it can be done.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dave, I mean, this particular project, what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so obviously, as Josh has already touched on, we talk to each other quite regular. Josh generally comes up with ideas and then throws it at me and says, can the technology work behind it, and can we make it work at other tracks? So the recent thing we've been working on is photo finishes. So obviously, been a big call on social media that photo finishes are available immediately after the photo's taken. So Josh kind of came up with the idea that how can we automate the system to make it work, you know, instantly. So what we've got now is we've tested it. It works at Swindon, that we can automatically take a screenshot of the photo finish and automatically post it to Twitter or any form of social media. So we can do that at Swindon. We've tested it at Swindon, it works. So Josh is now looking to offer that option up to all tracks in the country. If they want to get their photo finishes on social media instantly for their followers, they can do that now. So that's what we're working on currently. I'm sure Josh will talk about the other things that we've kind of got in the pipeline, you know, in the short to medium term.
Josh, what have we got?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, with the photo finish, we actually had Timetronics dial into the computer upstairs this morning because we've had some issues with the images looking a bit green. So they've dialed in this morning. So hopefully today, the photo finishes that get uploaded onto Twitter will look a bit better and not green. So, but that is near enough. Yeah, we ran all day Monday with it and it worked fine. Every photo finish, where there was a photo finish needed, went straight up. So yeah, it would be nice if any other track sort of wants to get involved with that. We've already done the software, so it's literally just a case of sending it over to them and setting it up on their computer, which can be done remotely. And then it's down to them how they use it. But ideally, the next big thing that we'd like to do is try and design an app solely for the sport. So obviously one of the main things is everything is readily available. That's kind of why I found it quite easy to begin with, to get everything out there with weights, advanced cards, obviously with the virtual programs now as well. Everything is there at people's fingertips. It's just a case of getting it out there, which Twitter isn't really a big enough platform for that. Whereas if we had an app that every track would be on, software gets sent off, and then we can look at things like embedding the trial videos. So obviously most tracks now have taken Mitch's lead and done trials. So it's all there. Even race replays, with Kingsley being able to upload into a OneDrive straight away is great. I'm trying to find out the legal side of it, our end, whether or not, obviously there are pictures, but ARC own the rights or RPG TV own the rights on Sunday. So we're unaware still of where we stand with that, but it would be nice to have something where everyone was together, regardless of what side they're on of the media war as well, that we were just together as a sport on an app. You can log on, find everything available, which, yeah, it's modern day now. The Australians are doing it, so why aren't we?
Yeah, it's the thing that occurs to me as someone who's not got any technical background, but certainly following the industry, is that the industry has to decide in the first instance how to best exploit it, because I don't know, I'm quite conscious that I don't know, I get irritated by people moaning on social media about a race on RPG TV, that particularly something like a derby that they're paying absolutely nothing for. They're getting it for free. The whole package is coming for free. Ultimately, somebody has to pay for this. Someone's got to train the dogs and feed the dogs. The money has to come through from outside the industry. And I guess we can't be far off the point now of having to look at how we monetize this stuff. It's one thing to give it away to the owners and trainers to say, here, guys, this adds to your enjoyment, your interest in the sport. It's something else to say to the bookmakers, oh, by the way, here's a free feed. Unless, of course, you can change your commercial model where you say, well, for every bet that's taken, the greyhound industry, through whichever source, is another day's work to decide how it operates. But ultimately, the greyhound industry gets that money in. So I guess, if you guys continue to go in the direction that you're going, we as an industry will have to have that discussion fairly soon before, again, we end up just giving this thing away. How do you see it, Dave?
Yeah, I exactly what you're saying there, Floyd. Technology is all around us now, and as we've seen throughout the lockdown, and I think this year greyhound racing has massively caught on to technology, especially Twitter and social media. I know obviously Josh is driving force in that. You've got Andrew at Kingsley. You've got your greyhound history Facebook group that are massive. Now, social media is a huge part of the sport now, and we need to tap into that, and we need to be spreading messages of positive messages through social media. And the idea of having an app, the data is everywhere. We've got so much data in this sport. We've just got it fragmented all over the place. We need to bring all this data together under one umbrella, which is obviously an app, where people have got that technology at the fingertips. At any time, they can click on things and see trials, races, race cards, all these type of things. Weights that Josh has said. It's the task that I think Josh and I are struggling with is just to try and push it out to the industry that we can't rest on our laurels. We can't sit and just carry on as we are, because we'll be left, and we are being left behind. And the work that we've done in the last 12 months, we need to do twice as much of that in the next 12 months. We really need to push on now. There's an opportunity for us to grow and use technology within the sport. I know Josh has talked about Australia, but there's a lot of things that we can do, that are inexpensive. It's not that Australia have got fortunes to tap into. It's how they use it and how they present the sport, and that's what we need to do better.
I mean, it's funny enough, Simon Harms pointed something out yesterday, and I was interviewing him about the national sprint win, and saying one of the things that first attracted him to Toaster was that they were running these televised trial sessions first time round before the place closed and reopened again. So that stuff was out there, but nobody else was following it. One of the concerns I have, and I'm not going to turn this into a political discussion, but one of the concerns I have is that there is a little bit of a difference, that there is perhaps a difference of emphasis perhaps between some of the racecourse promoters whose sole or greatest concern, understandably, is how do I get my meetings on this week? How do I get my 10, 12 grand, whatever in per meeting to keep me operating? And then some of us who are thinking, yeah, but we've got to be looking further than that, and we've got to keep these owners involved, and this will keep owners involved. And to get the enthusiasm from sections of the industry that may not see this as their biggest priority, maybe if we can, obviously with a new director at commercial director at GBGB, if we can add some cash to this, people's ideas might buck up a little bit. They might be thinking, do you know what? Yeah, these guys have got the technology. They're producing this. We're now producing something for the bookmakers.
Yeah.
And going on to something that I spoke to you briefly about recently, I was chatting to somebody from the bookmaking industry who I have a lot of respect for, and said, my biggest concern at this stage is that put aside the grassroots, put aside the owners and trainers. We are heavily reliant on gambling, and we do not have a young audience, and that audience is going to shrink, rather like the owners and trainers in the industry. Most of them have been in it forever. How do we go about making greyhound racing sexy for a younger generation that at the moment probably only bet on football, or as was pointed out to me, they might be betting on T20 the next wicket. I mean, I've come up here with an old race card, which is sort of crossing two subjects here. Let me just see if I can load it up. Bear in mind, I'm the last one to talk about technology. I mean, here we go with this 1956 Derby race card that really isn't so different from anything we have today.
Not at all. Not at all.
You know, now you think of where the world was at when this race card came up. You know, you've got the race comments, all the bits and pieces. One of the things that was suggested was perhaps we should even look at, I mean, as I said, this is 1956. One of the things that was kind of suggested was, in addition to that, and we know we're heavily reliant on the older people and people like my own generation who've grown up with race cards of that type, and we don't want to lose them. But how do you guys feel about, for example, a digital race card that you could just come up on your phone, and it may not have an awful lot of that information on there, which is confusing for the first time race goer? Race comments, even weights, sectionals. You kind of need to be into it to understand a race card. And if we're going to get new people involved, either directly coming to the track or simply viewing online and having their few quid online on their way to work looking at their phone, we're not going to do it with those kind of race cards, are we? Oh, that's my view. How do you feel about that?
I agree with that. I mean, you only have to look at the horse racing industry and how often, you know, back in the day when Tony McCoy was riding, would people just look for Tony McCoy or look for particular parts of information, you see?
Yeah.
Yeah. The race cards, they are littered with information, and to you and I who read race cards, and the same for Josh. But we do need to, you know, cut the information down, but not cut it down as in, you know, totally remove it, but you know, potentially just hiding part of the information, that some more of the information is more prevalent on the screen, so people that aren't within the sport like us, that can pick up greyhound racing, understand particular things, take certain things in, you know. Why wouldn't you look at a card and say, oh, Kevin Hutton's got a dog, or Mark Wallace, for example, or, you know, and try and get the public to get themselves attached to certain dogs or certain trainers or certain owners in the sport. You see in horse racing, people got attached to Cato Star, Desert Orchid, Frankel, this type of thing. I think we need to push the fact that we need casuals to get involved, and we need them to get involved in the sport, but we also need to make sure that the stars of our sport are highlighted at every opportunity. I don't know what Josh thinks about that.
Yeah, obviously it's you go horse racing, and even just being in colour, the programming color makes a lot of difference compared to your basic black and white print that near enough every dog track puts out. Obviously, I know Towcester previous were putting out color cards, but I think they were losing money on what they were costing to make. So if you did have something that was virtual and you could put anything in it, obviously, basically with like our virtual cards, I just basically copied Andrew's idea and then ran with that. And we've managed to add in sort of Lofty's view from Star Sports for the Oaks at the weekend, the semi-final replays, that type of thing. But even on a normal bags card, you could have a dog that ran well last time. Well, here's a replay of it running well last time. Or I must have 500 dogs worth of photos that have been on the strength since we've come back from lockdown. So there's a high chance every dog that runs here I've got a photo of. So even putting a photo of, or a headshot of the dog when they're kennelling in that morning, headshot of every dog, and then a little picture next to the number, just so it's because even when people aren't here in the week, if you go on the virtual card, oh, there's a white dog, I like the white dog, I'll bet on the white dog, or like the old brown dog, that type of thing, where it's just something extra that adds a bit of color to it, but also makes it a bit simpler for your people that aren't going on stats. They're going on, that dog looks nice, or I like the name, that type of thing.
I love the idea as well, and I'm going slightly off track here because I want to primarily talk about race cars, but I like the idea again. I'm so conscious, we get a lot of calls here because obviously people Google greyhound racing in England, Greyhound Star comes up fairly early, that I've been able to direct to your greyhound's history. And people have said, oh, I've just got a dog. I think he used to run it in Manchester somewhere. What can you tell me about him? And I give them a couple of links and I put them in touch with the Facebook page. I do think that there's a great opportunity there in terms of digitally creating profiles for these dogs, because people love them when they get to find out that they have this little star in their household. That here's some footage of him running. This is him winning a race. This all that kind of stuff they seem to love. So I think that in terms of what you're doing, Josh, is fantastic. And it's great to know that if I get people ask about Swindon, I can almost certainly say
I'll probably have a photo.
He's probably got a picture of your favourite pet during his racing career. Going back to sort of my sort of vision of a digital race card, though, something that comes up on your phone. I mean, I'd be picturing something that was almost, if you like, with traffic light colours on. You look at it immediately, you don't know anything about it. You've got the dogs' names, but you're saying, well, this is the big price one. This is the one that's likely to lead. This is going to be the fancy. This is that kind of thing that you could put in front of somebody who'd never been to a dog track before. They could look at that and spend maybe 20 seconds looking at it and go, do you know what? I think number 3 has the best chance in this race. Whether it wins or not's another thing. We all know that. But I mean, I took somebody racing for the first time to Toaster last week, and he's your generation, and just really looked at the race card, and his eyes just glazed over. And I'm sure we've all had that experience where you take somebody racing, they look at the race card and they go, "What the hell does this sort of bureaucrat de feu? You know, what the hell does all that mean?" Even the sectionals, the racing weights, it's all superfluous. It's nice that we have them for the enthusiasts, but if we are going to engage people and get them to bet and to then hopefully take the next step and then become regulars and owners and trainers, then you need to make it so easy for them to begin with, because they're not an easy sport to follow, I don't think.
No, I think you're right. And I think Josh has already touched on what we can do with the digital race cards, and that the information that we can put in there is far, far superior than a paper race card, which is just black and white. Your videos, your content that you can put on there, you know, you can take in more information in a 10-second video than you could ever do reading a piece of paper for a couple of minutes. And he's touched on Lofty's videos. I like watching Lofty's videos. They're really interesting. And it's how we produce that information that engages people. I know in Australia, Jason Adams, who I'm quite friendly with, he does, and I'm not sort of saying that we need to do this, but for Sundowns cards, he does a little 25-second, rundown, why he fancies this, why he fancies that. Pretty much what Lofty does, but just a 25, 30-second little rundown. If someone wants to click that, they can click that. The data is available there. If they want to watch the replay, the data is available there. I think the concept of a digital race card and having this information and having the help if necessary to make a better choice is far superior than just a piece of paper in front of someone with a casual who just doesn't understand. It's how we translate our sport that makes people better understand how to make an informed judgment when it comes to placing a bet or following a particular race.
Yeah, I certainly, I think that idea, and I hadn't even been thinking in those terms, but that idea of a 20-second summary by somebody, or 20 to 30-second summary, where everybody's got a mobile phone, and if you you turn up at Nottingham, and the digital race card's immediately available, you go to the first race and you click and you get this 30-second commentary saying exactly the kind of things I was talking about before. This dog is likely to be favourite. This one is going to be a big outsider. This is likely to lead. Can he hold on? That, I think, perhaps that sort of brief, what do you call it, visual image or spoken image of the race and how it's likely to unfold is would have to be a big plus in terms of what we're doing. Apologies, you may find that there was a little bit of a blip in there that Mr. Mitchell is going to edit out for me. It involved a mad golden doodle. The pet greyhound is behaving in the background. However, moving on. The other thing that occurred to me again, or was in fact was pointed out to me, was that one of the things that from a gambling point of view that we don't do very well is we don't offer the big odds. To say to somebody, put £2 on and win £3. Again, perhaps it's a generational thing. It doesn't seem particularly sexy. To put £2 on, albeit on a very difficult bet to pull off, and pick up 270 quid, that kind of makes a difference. And one of the things that I've talked about and mentioned to David in the past, I love an idea of a first to last, where somebody has to pick the first 6 in correct order in a race. What are your thoughts, really? I mean, do you see that, or are there any other kind of exotic bets that you think we could do?
I think there's many options that we're probably
here. We've got like pick 6. That's normally the one that's sort of.
No, go on, Josh. You go on.
No, it was only the pick 6 that we used to do on a Saturday night, and that was about it. It doesn't really, nothing comes to mind here that has ever really been done apart from that. And obviously the jackpot, whether or not like a jackpot could be brought through across the sport type thing, pick a winner in every race, that type of thing.
I was going to say it needs to be shared, doesn't it? Because as crowds, given the size that they are at so many of these meetings, you might get 200 or 300 people there. You're simply not going to get enough volume in the pool to make these things interesting. Well, again, this isn't rocket science. This has been done for years, particularly in America. And I saw, I was telling David, I saw a link the other day. Somebody was showing me on a phone for racing in America, and it was actually at Toaster, and I was watching it, and the time lag was so short that it was virtually instantaneous watching it live. And RPG TV was on at the same time, and it was about 3 or 4 seconds later. And this particular digital feed had obviously gone to, whatever the type of feed is, David will be aware, had gone to America and come back in the blink of an eye. David, what was it that you what's that particular technology called?
The AWS cloud-based technology, which is obviously instantaneous. They'll probably have servers in America that are just sharing data. Obviously, there'll be a server in the UK. There's one in Ireland, I think. But it's AWS, Amazon Web Services, they'll be probably using for that type of technology.
Yeah, but that you realise that the kind of the global potential. These people were betting on races at Toaster into American pools, and there was quite a lot of money going in there. So we have the kind of the raw material in terms of the racing. And now, again, back to you guys, it is the use of the technology then to enable us to make best use of it and to monetize it, I would have thought.
I think the thing is as well, Floyd, and I mean, I don't want to talk about Australia because I know I probably get a lot of stick on Twitter for harping on about Australia, you know, and obviously we're in the UK and it's two totally different things. But just going back to technology, and we'll touch on this, I suppose, with Josh as well, because Josh and I have had discussions with companies and whatnot. But Australia are much better with the exotic bets than what we are. We've obviously seen them using technology. You'll have seen them putting devices in the back of the race jackets. They do the sectionals to the third bend. We've seen them do match races as well, where you can bet on the fastest first sectional, the fastest run home, who's going to run the fastest overall in the competition or what it might be. So they definitely use technology to improve their exotics. And that is something that I think we need to put to bookmakers, that if we invest in technology, it'll offer more opportunities for bookmakers to take these type of exotic bets. I know Josh will probably give a good overview of the technology he's been in discussion about. I know we've talked to a company about infield timers with adverts displayed on that. And also we've discussed the cost of putting the devices in the back of the race jackets. So albeit we're talking about investing in technology, it can work hand in hand with the betting industry as well.
Mm. Do you ever thought on that, Josh?
Yeah. Obviously, the software on the jackets is the Isolink software that's used in Australia, and we've had it quoted to be installed here. It is quite a bit of money, but if my idea was if one track could use it over here, we can then prove to the bookmakers, well, this is all the data we can offer you. So you can be betting on sectionals on the third bend, sectionals to the first bend. Literally absolutely anything. Stuff can be added onto them. You can add heart rate sensors to the dogs. So it's not only a betting aspect, it can also be used on a welfare side. I've spoken to Corey, who's the groundsman at the Meadows, and he said they use it quite a lot now for the correct seeding. So they're trying to sort of, obviously they don't really seed over there, but with being able to see on a graph where the dogs come from out of the traps is huge, which even for a puppy over here, if you put it through, you're relying on the racing office to be able to see that. Obviously with trials now being recorded, you've got that added backup for if they do miss something. But same for like an argument for where a trainer thinks its dog's a railer but it's running middle for an open race. You can say, well, sorry, but you had a trial round here and we plotted your dog, here's the graph of it running around the track, it ran wide. So yeah, it's a big thing for welfare as well, not only the betting, but it costs quite a lot of money. I think we were quoted around 80,000. That's Australian dollars for here. But it's how far do you want to go? And I think once one track did do it, you've got the potential, same as the clock. We kind of need one track to do it, get the advertising for it, and then show that, well, this is what can be done at all tracks. But without anyone sort of doing it to begin with and not having the money to really spend, sort of anything that's been done here, I've not had a penny to spend. So it's all been done, everything we've put out has been free and not cost anything. So we are kind of at the stage now where the ideas me and Mitch have got need some form of backing, basically, to try and push it over the line.
Yeah, that's probably, of anything that we talked about today, that's probably the thing that's come across the most strongly, is that it's kind of, you know, the technology is available, the technology is out there, there are people like you guys who can handle it and do what we need. We now need it to be financed, and ultimately that has to come from the gambling side. And until we make greyhound racing sexier to a point that you could look at it from a gambling perspective and say, this will increase turnover, this will increase profits. I mean, on the positive side, I don't know if either of you had a chance to see the, I did a review from the Gambling Commission, excuse me, and greyhound racing was I think, just about the only sport that showed increased revenue within the last year. And it's not huge. We know we're a tiny fraction of what horse racing is. Percentage wise, we're amongst the best, not including football. But it certainly at this stage is holding up. Again, RPG TV or streaming onto phones. But I can't help feel that there is so much more potential if we can only sort of, grasp it. And as I said before on a previous Zoom call, we need to take this stuff to the bookmakers. We can't ask them to come to us. They've got so much going on. They've got everybody on their case. We need to be able to go to them and go, guys, this is what we can do. We've got this package. This will increase your turnover on betting. If it does, then you can justify spending the money. And you guys are in business at that stage, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think Josh has touched on a great point there that I didn't bring up, and we have discussed it. I think what people need to understand as well, when Josh and I come up with these ideas and we discuss them at length, we do try and think firstly, will the idea work? Yes. Do we think it'll improve the sport? Yes. Can it be used at all tracks? That's important. We don't just look at Swindon, and we try and think of all tracks, and is it financially viable? And when it comes to welfare, money should be, we do pump a lot of money into welfare, but Josh has hit the nail on the head there. If we can put a tracking device in the back of a racing jacket that can improve welfare no end, so we can correctly seed a dog that it should be, and I'm not taking away from the work that racing managers do up and down the country, but technology is there. We should be using it. There is so many things we could be doing with it in terms of welfare, and we can increase turnover in the betting, and we can improve the sport for everyone. And just touching on something you just said there, Floyd, about the turnover increasing in greyhound racing, I know people within the sport will probably think, there was less prize money in the Derby, and we didn't probably have as many competitions, and there wasn't as much prize money going round. But that aside, we do need to improve that, by the way. I'm not saying we don't. That aside, the social media, the way we're using technology at tracks with the trials and stuff in the last 12 months has improved. And I would say that it works hand in hand with what you've just said. And if we are given the support and the backing and the financial support to be able to do what we think will improve the sport further over the next 12 to 18 months, there's no reason why it can't grow again. And the betting industry and the sport as a whole need to understand that technology is driving this.
Yes, definitely so. Definitely so. Gentlemen, I think I'm always conscious about these things running on too long, because I could sit here and talk all day, learn things and take the thing forward. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure you will both be back in the future for other discussions. Before I let you go, Josh, your dad, is he well?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, but he's upstairs driving the air at the minute for trials, and my granddad, he's going like he always does. There's no stopping him. He was schooling at Bicester on Sunday, and he's got a couple of weeks off now. So the older he gets, the more the fitter. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I met them both when I came down. I did a piece on Bicester schooling track a long time ago now. I think just after they'd invented the hare, your granddad invented the hare, and it was it's nice to see. I mean, are they still getting many trials around?
Yeah, obviously it's not as good as what it used to be. Obviously, years ago there was loads. He tends to get as many pet dogs now as greyhounds, which it pays its way, so it helps out. But he said it's always is a concern with where are these dogs coming from, and if they've got obviously we've had other schooling tracks close. So if Bicester closes, then where does anyone go to school the pups? Because you in most cases you can't just chuck a dog around a racetrack and expect it to run. They need something beforehand. But yeah, it's carrying on. Obviously, he went for funding, things like that, and was turned down because it's obviously not a licensed track. But
Yeah,
it would be hopeful in future years or something that stuff can be looked into to try and help places like him out, because we've lost what we've lost in the industry as well. And at the end of the day, where do dogs come from? They
yeah, and
they don't just appear at the track.
That's right. I mean, again, we are talking. It is everything's welfare related, because you know if your granddad takes a litter of pups and gives them a decent schooling, they're much less likely for things to go wrong by the time they turn up at Swindon, because the racing manager hasn't got time to nurture young pups through. Yes, try and do the best he can, but if they turned up and their only schooling is a couple of solos at Swindon, then you're asking for trouble. You're asking for dogs to be disqualified. You're asking for dogs not even to know really where they're running, how to take the bends correctly. You're certainly increasing the risk, I would have thought. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you for your time. We'll call it the day, and we'll do it again sometime. Cheers.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Right.